Hello, we made it through technical difficulties and all. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone in my Facebook group, on my Facebook page, and in YouTube. And we already have lots and lots of comments. I am beyond thrilled and excited and honored to have one of my most favorite people on the planet, Gary Zukav, here with me today. He's got a brand new book coming out. He is a 4 consecutive New York Times bestseller, including his legendary Seed of the Soul, which I have my copy here. And I actually have to tell you, I flew to to meet him about 15 years ago, and he signed my copy, and I'm going to show everybody. He signed my copy right here. So I'm so excited to have him here with us and share his brand new book, Universal Human, with all of you guys. It's coming out on June 22nd, so make sure you go and pre-order it right away. It'll be the best money you ever spent. So welcome, Gary Zukav.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's so nice to see you again after 15 years.
It's so nice to see you again. And I mean, you have such an incredible background. By the way, one thing I didn't mention is that you've been on Oprah, I don't even know how many times, 30 something. How many times were you on Oprah?
It's around there.
Yeah,
lots of times.
Lots of times. And we are going to be recording a podcast after this. So I'm going to save a lot of the questions that I have for you for our podcast. But, you know, you've got this brand new book and you have an interesting background because you were a Green Beret. You were in Vietnam. You openly talk about your issues with being angry at the world and some addiction issues. And I mean, you were just not in a good place. So how did you go from being that to where you are now, which I believe that you are a modern day prophet, which that may embarrass you, but that's what I believe that you are. And I would like to know how you made that leap.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. I did have some addiction issues, and they were huge. I was addicted to sex. And when I lived in San Francisco, and I was in my early 30s, and for the other years before that, my life was very macho. I was, in addition to women, I was experimenting with a lot of drugs. Motorcycles were a part of my life, just as being in the military and an elite officer. And at the time, I thought I was admirable, but only to people like me. I didn't realize that almost everything I did was controlled by fear. And when somebody is so frightened, they don't even know that they're frightened. The street name for that is macho, and I was. So the question is, how did I get from there to where I am now? I didn't realize that I was in a bad place, as you put it, but looking back, I could see how so many of the relationships I had didn't last, because at the time I couldn't see how someone wouldn't want to be with a sexually addicted narcissist who's macho.
I was actually just going to ask you if you were a narcissist.
Well, that is a clinical term, but I prefer to look at human behavior differently, my behavior and your behavior, as it's more complex than that. And by the way, the question originally was how I got from there to here. It was incrementally, and I can look back on it to describe it much better than I could at the time. But if I could put it into a few words, I would say, follow meaning, follow your heart. I had an invitation to a meeting of physicists at the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, and I had the feeling I should go, even though I've never liked physics, never studied it. And when I went there, they were discussing a topic that just astounded me. They were asking themselves, are we creating the reality that we're experimenting with? Now, that was not a new question to me. My group in the coffee shops in North Beach discussed that same question fairly often. but these were world-renowned physicists. The senior theoretical physicist at LBL, Henry Stapp, was there. Jeff Chu, who was chair of the department down the hill, was there. And I was so excited by what I heard that when I came home, it was as though I'd had 3 cups of cappuccino and they were sparking off my fingertips, but I could not articulate what excited me so. And so I went back and I asked if I could attend more meetings, and they graciously said I could. And eventually I decided to write a book to give on a silver platter.
Dancing Woolly Masters?
Yes, the Dancing Woolly Masters, an overview of the new physics.
Yes, so I've read that.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I wanted to give, you can tell me what you liked about it, but I can tell you what I liked about it. I enjoyed sharing what I was learning about quantum physics with people like me who were liberal arts majors, non-scientists, couldn't do any mathematics, but were interested in this thing called quantum mechanics. So all of this is by way of answering your question. It turned out I could see in retrospect that that was the first gift I gave to life. Everything before that was about me, mine, and me. I never thought about giving to others and what I could provide others. But the Dancing Woolly Masters was such a joy to me in writing it that I discovered how magnificent giving to others can be, although it didn't register like that at that time. And more things have happened since and are still continuing to happen. So if you are in a place now which is causing you pain, in which you are causing yourself pain, know that there's ways to move beyond that. And the new book, Universal Human, gives a wonderful overview of creating authentic power. And I wrote it to share with you how you can use some basic tools like emotional awareness and responsible choice to become aware in your life in ways that you couldn't before. Now, is that because I'm a better teacher than anybody else? No, it's not. It's because we are in a new consciousness now that we were not in before. Hundreds of millions. Yes, please.
I was just going to, you mentioned authentic power. I, of course, know the definition because I've read everything that you've written. But I would like for you to share your definition of what authentic power is with the people who are on this call.
Authentic power is the ability to distinguish within yourself between love and fear and choose love all the time, no matter what's happening inside of you, like anger, rage, addictive sexual craving, righteousness, vengefulness, or what's happening outside of you. And that could be another 9/11 type event, or the illness of a child. In all cases, in all of the things that you experience in your life, to have developed the ability to distinguish in yourself, not in other people, the difference between love and fear, so that you can choose love no matter what. And that's important in practical ways in your life. And we can talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's so much that we can talk about here. I also want to get to some people's questions. I mean, I'm seeing some people saying that Seed of the Soul has changed their lives. Somebody tuning in from Cape Town, Africa. I would love to know where you are all tuning in from. Hey to Tracy Porterfield. She says, choose love. And, you know, we have people who are tuning in here today from all over the world right now on every continent. So you have reached people on every continent in every corner of the world with your message. And you know, I know you talk about aligning your personality with your soul and with your soul's purpose, but there are a lot of people out there who are afraid, who are in toxic relationships, who are in a place of feeling like they can't move or they don't know what to do next. You know, what would you tell them as far as where to start?
I don't give advice. I'm not a counselor, and I'm not a psychologist. And in fact, I would suggest that you not take anything that I tell you as true. In fact, I would suggest that you never take anything that anyone tells you as true, especially if they have a microphone or a television show or a podcast or have written a book. Try it on for size. Take it into your life. And if you resonate with it, experiment with it. And if it produces what you want, experiment some more. And if it doesn't, throw it away. Don't try to wear a shoe that pinches. So we started off with you using the word narcissist. And I said that that's a clinical term and it's well defined. But I feel that it can be more helpful at times to look at what the behaviors, where the behaviors of what is clinically called a narcissist come from. And it's the same source that anger comes from, that superiority comes from, inferiority, righteousness, rage, addiction, compulsion, obsession. And that source is fear. So as this new consciousness that we've entered, and if you're watching this show and you had the intuition to watch it, and if you're listening to me, the new consciousness has touched you. When it touches you, you begin to have a sense of yourself as more than a body and a mind. A sense of the world is more than random. A sense of the universe is more than inert, which means dead and cold and merciless. You begin to sense yourself as having an immortal component, a part of you that existed before you were born and that will exist after you die. You look at the world and you think, and you see that you can learn from it, not about the world, but about yourself. And you look at the universe to the best of your ability, and you begin to think, maybe all of this, the Milky Way, the countless galaxies, and beyond, are more than a new frontier for us to colonize. Maybe the universe is much larger than even all of this, and it's compassionate and it's wise. The new consciousness is touching hundreds of millions of people, and I love talking to them like we're doing now, to say you're not off balance, your sanity is not in question, your sanity is coming to you. And as it does, and you use your multisensory perception, which is the new consciousness, and the new potential that it brings, which is authentic power, you begin to experience yourself, your personality as a complex mandala, not a single thing that sometimes is happy, sometimes it's sad, but it's got many different parts. Some of those parts are excruciating to feel physically, and some of them are blissful. The ones that are excruciating, we can put in a basket and call fear. Fear is so painful to experience, especially when you don't act on it, especially when you feel you need sex, or you need a fix, or you need food, and you don't act on it. Instead, you turn your attention inward. And we can talk about that anytime. That's emotional awareness. But when you do that, you're going to step into awareness of pain. Anytime you step into a fear-based part of your personality, you experience painful physical sensations, thoughts that are comparative, judgmental, right and righteous. And narcissism is a way of describing the behaviors of one of those frightened parts of your personality. Now, the advantage of seeing this accurately is that once you realize that, you can see that I have other parts of my personality too. I have parts that are patient. I have parts that care about people. I have parts that are in awe of the universe. And while I'm feeling narcissistic, which means superior, entitled, not able to really appreciate others, while you're doing that, you can remind yourself that you're in a part of your personality. And in that moment, you can reach as best as you can to a healthy part of your personality, a love-based part of your personality, one that's grateful or appreciative or caring or content. And you might not be able to go there in that moment. You might not even be able to remember one in that moment. But if you can set the intention to go toward one, you move yourself toward love. You move yourself in that direction. You face in a different direction. And that's the beginning of mastery.
Mm.
Very beginning of it.
So most of the people who follow me and who are part of my community are actually the ones dealing with a narcissist. You know, they're trying to negotiate with them. Maybe it's a soon-to-be ex-spouse. Maybe it's already an ex. Maybe it's a business partner, or it could even just be people that they're negotiating with in business in any sense. So they're trying to deal with them. I know I want to get to some of these some of these great questions that are coming up, and people are loving what you're saying. By the way, I don't know if you can see the comments, but they're loving it. But I want to talk about. I just want to mention intention a little bit, because I think that is such the essence of. Well, I mean, there's so many different parts of what you teach, but intention is incredible. And I have highlighted, I probably did this 20 years ago in this book, but or maybe probably 25, but I don't want to give away my age too much. But your intentions create the reality that you experience. Until you become aware of this, it happens unconsciously. Therefore, be mindful of what you project. That is the first step toward authentic power.
Yes, it is. And by the way, I heard what you just said about your age. I already know your age. You are eternal and immortal.
I love that.
So if you look at yourself from that perspective, that will replace all other perspectives from which anxiety or fear can originate. But let's talk about the practicality of that. Intention is perfect. A perfect topic for us to discuss, and always is a perfect topic for us to discuss. So for those of you who are in Rebecca's audience and you're dealing with a narcissist, or you're training yourself to help people deal with narcissist, or whatever the word narcissist has that has drawn you to it, however you are learning or practicing, it is your intention that creates consequences in your life, not your deed and not your words. So if you have someone that you have deemed a narcissist, and by the way, that is a clinical term, and I'm not sure about how psychiatrists and psychologists use it, but most lay people use it with judgment. So if you're using it with judgment, that is the first indication to you that a frightened part of your personality is active, and with that, you'll probably find others: anger, frustration, rage, resentment, distance. All of those are painful experiences of fear. And so how you go about dealing with this person is important for you, not the other person. It's important not because of what you can get, because of maybe Rebecca can help you get some support for your children or a comfortable place to live or whatever you want. Where is that desire in you coming from? Is it coming from love, or is it coming from fear? If it's coming from love, you'll find that the more you create authentic power, the more you use your multisensory perception, the more you'll see how painful fear is. And then you'll see fear clearly in other people, like the person you're dealing with that has brought you to Rebecca. And you'll realize that person, it hurts. That person is in fear. And there's a part of you that won't be able to accept or even care any about that. There's a part of you that thinks only you've been hurt, and this has to be corrected or righted. All of those come from fear. There's nothing wrong with following that. The universe isn't oriented in terms of right and wrong or good and bad. It's oriented in terms of cause and effect. there is a cause, and for every cause, there's an effect. And if you participate in the cause, you will participate in the effect. So that is a good reason for becoming aware of when your intention is fear and when your intention is love. If you act on an intention of fear, you're going to create painful, destructive consequences for yourself. Same that you've created before. Because this experience in you didn't just come about with this partner, this business partner, this neighbor, this roommate, this classmate. You've experienced it before. And you will experience it again as long as you continue to escape the pain of it by changing the world. That means sue him. That means divorce her. That means get this person out of your life. Well, when you do that, the best that you can hope for is temporary happiness. It's like riding a roller coaster. When a frightened part of your personality gets what it wants, it's exhilarated. It's at the top of the roller coaster ride. But then when the next person is the same way, or the person you thought you were going to get a house from doesn't give you and you're in court again, you free fall back into fear, all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Creating authentic power is using this ride to learn about your own internal dynamics. So
I want you all to hear that. Use this ride to learn about your own internal dynamics. That's a great quote. I just want to hang on that for a second, because that is really what it's all about. I mean, you also talk in a lot of your books about this being Earth School, which I always think about. This is, we're here to learn. We're here for lessons, right? And so I want to start taking a couple of questions from people. One person is asking, how do we purge the guilt from leaving a narcissist?
Guilt is also the experience of a frightened part of your personality, and you deal with it the same way. I'd suggest that you read Universal Human. Seed of the Soul, by the way, there's a 25th anniversary edition of The Seed of the Soul out now. It's the same book that you have, Rebecca, but it's got a big study guide in the back.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so I'd suggest that you look at that too. And Universal Human has a good tour through creating authentic power, plus a look at why all of our social structures are disintegrating. And I'm so glad that we're talking, Rebecca, because one of those social structures, as you know, is law. And it's not working so well. One of my, and so you can, as you interact with your clients, begin to look at what you can bring to them too, the intention of love or the intention of fear.
I'm going to let you keep talking. I'm so sorry, but for some reason, my PC is saying it's not charging, even though it's plugged in. So you keep talking. This is what happens when you're live. So you keep talking. I'm going to just make sure it's plugged in correctly. Keep going.
You bet. Well, there goes Rebecca. What shall we talk about? Let's continue to talk about the same thing. The same thing. Guilt is an experience of a frightened part of your personality. And guilt serves no constructive end. Guilt makes the tree grow crooked. It has no constructive purpose. And you can recognize guilt by exercising and developing and exercising emotional awareness, and then practicing responsible choice. Every painful, destructive aspect of your personality, whether it's remorse, guilt, or any of the others that we've already repeated 2 or 3 times, has the same solution. That's why I can't tell you, I have a solution for your guilt. I have a solution for your addiction to shopping. I have a solution for your repulsion, for your partner. I have a solution, because the solution for all of these problems is the same. Develop emotional awareness. Exercise responsible choice. Practice reaching for love when you're in a painful, magnetically powerful experience of fear. And as you do that again and again and again, you begin to move beyond the control of that part of your personality.
Mm.
And while you were gone, Rebecca, I saved this thought because I wanted to share it with you. I'm so glad you're an attorney, because one of the social structures is disintegrating, and they all are: commerce, business, health, education, science.
Yes, and by the way, Gary talks about that in his new book, Universal Human, too, which I was fortunate enough to get to read already. And so I just want to make sure I say again a couple of times while we're in this show, please go pre-order his new book. Go to Amazon, get it right now, pre-order it so that it shows up as soon as it gets published on June 22nd.
Can I make a suggestion, Rebecca?
Yes.
Go to universalhuman.com. It'll take you right to Amazon, but first you'll get a chance to see what our new website is going to look like.
Oh, go there. Go to universalhuman.com. Yes.
Yeah, it's only one page in a new website, and the website is seatofthesoul.com, but don't bother going there now. We're replacing that, and within a month, we have a new website for you, new online courses, new social media, new podcasts. And I'm just thrilled because what Linda and I are committed to and living for is to support you in creating authentic power. And we're teachers, yes, we're also students. This is a lifelong heartfulness meditation. And in my experience, it's why you were born. You were born to give gifts. You were born to give the gifts your soul wants you to give. And you can't do that while you're caught in a frightened part of your personality.
So true. And by the way, in his new book, he talks about heart-centered meditations and mind-centered meditations as well. So much good stuff in there. So make sure you go to universalhuman.com and check out his new website, and also pre-order the book for sure. So I think we have time for maybe one more question before we wrap up here. It says, this is from Jack L. I feel nauseated when I'm close to the narc, like it's sucking my energy out, and I struggle to be productive. Why is this?
It's not because of the narcissist. It's because you're indulging a frightened part of your personality, and you've taken the stance of a victim. You're feeling that you are being sucked dry. That's a perspective of a victim. But as you create authentic power, you'll see that you don't have it in your power to hurt someone else. You may think you do, but you don't. All the things that you encounter in the external world, in this case a narcissist, activate internal dynamics in you, and those internal dynamics generate your painful and blissful experiences. So as you strive to change the world, which is pursuing external power, the ability to manipulate and to control, you don't do anything to change those internal dynamics, and they remain intact and ready to be activated again in the future, and they will be. And you will experience these same things: the experience of a victim, the experience of someone sucking out your energy.
Mm-hmm. That is
Take a
so
look.
good.
This is a good question. This is a good question, because when you can articulate that and hear this answer, if you are, then you have something to do about it, rather than the completely futile step of trying to change the world, getting rid of the person you think is sucking your energy.
And there's going to be so much more. I want to just let everybody know that I am going to be interviewing Gary for my podcast as well. And that podcast will go live just before his book is ready to be published. On June 22nd is when the book goes live. So, and we, in that podcast, because there's so much more, but I just want to just mention, in his new book, Universal Human, he talks about the difference between being a 5-sensory human and a multi-sensory human. And I love that you refer to the 5-sensory human as like the person who's the grand temple of external power. Because that's really kind of what happens when people are narcissistic, is they they strive for that external power all the time. So, so much in this new book. It is absolutely fantastic. Go grab it. Go follow him. Read everything he's ever written. It will absolutely change your life. Thank you all so much for joining, and thank you, Gary. And guys, if you like this video, make sure you like it, share it, and subscribe here or like the page. Go follow Gary, subscribe to anything that he's doing as well. Do that before you even do mine. I'd rather you go there than where he's like the master. And so thank you so much, all of you guys, for joining in.
I want to thank you too. Thank you for allowing me into your life for a little while. It's been a joy.
Thank you.